Disney and the various brands it owns have been in free fall for a while now, and guys like me have been screaming about it in the darkness. Turns out legacy media has finally noticed and started talking about it. And holy hell, what a terrible last couple of weeks Disney's had. I almost feel sorry for them. Ultimately, the conclusions most people are drawing for why it's failing are wrong, but we'll get to that on the other side. So the biggest bombshell this past week was South Park coming in and nuking Disney from orbit. As usual, Trey and Matt distilled a point of view most of us seem to have into a short, right to the jugular episode that laid bare exactly what we've all been pointing out. Disney's been pandering to activists by race, sex, and sexuality swapping legacy characters for more diverse versions, and they've run off longtime fans who want no part of that. South Park did this in only the way they can by having Cartman start having dreams of Kathleen Kennedy hiding under his bed, trying to replace him and all his friends with diverse females. It's absolutely glorious. Word out of Lucasfilm is that Kathleen Kennedy, the villain of the South Park episode, was beyond pissed, which meant it was the perfect time for Gina Carano to fucking unload on her on Twitter. Quote, "This is the part where KK demands any YouTubers get censored off of YouTube for sharing and laughing at this hilarious episode. She'll have YouTube disable the thumbs down option because of the ratio she'll receive. Then she'll have her publicist ghouls make sure Variety and Hollywood Reporter run hit pieces about the South Park creators and their families, smearing their names through every useful idiot she has under her thumb, who would sell their soul to work for Lucasfilm. She'll activate her online mob to repeat that the South Park creators are racist, bigot, transphobes, and demand the South Park creators publicly apologize by only using words she approves of. And finally, she'll demand they subject themselves to a re-education course of 45 people in the LGBTQ community Zoom call to sit there and listen to how badly they got their feelings hurt all over a little boop of a South Park episode. But maybe, just maybe, the jig is up. When someone felt the need to push back against her, she doubled down with this epic reply. Hit pause and read it for yourself, because it's not only hilarious, but gives you a glimpse of exactly what they did to her while she was there and why her exit came the way it did. It's fantastic. This all came on the heels of an article by Variety which dished out dirt about the state of Marvel's MCU. After years of it being obvious, there are finally cracks starting to show. There are admissions they know how bad things are, that they're in deep shit thanks to them tying the entire next arm to Jonathan Majors Kang, who's found himself in legal trouble in New York, that they're well aware of the upcoming gigantic turd that'll be the Marvels opening weekend, that no one even cares enough about season 2 of Loki to trash it, and on and on. One great tidbit that got revealed was that it cost roughly $25 million per episode for She-Hulk. $25 million for this.
Oh no, I forgot how to do it.
One of the two biggest bits of news for me was that their remake of Blade is seemingly a catastrophe. Mahershala Ali, tapped to play Blade, reportedly almost left the entire production because, quote, "the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Blade was relegated to the fourth lead," unquote. I mean, given what we know about Disney and Marvel at this point, does any of that ring false? Of course not. Finally, just as most of us predicted, they're now apparently attempting to dig up Tony Stark, Natasha, and the rest of the gang to reunite the original cast of Avengers to try and save the MCU. Never mind, they killed both of them in the final 2 movies of the Infinity Saga, but I'm sure they'll multiverse some more nonsense to try and make it happen. There is no bigger sign of abject desperation than this. This move is utterly pathetic. Oh, did I forget to mention they've pushed back the upcoming train wreck that will be their modern take on Snow White an entire year, from spring 2024 to the spring of 2025? They also released this image, which, wait, I thought this is what we were getting. Honestly, unless the plan is an entire revamping of everything at this point we have heard about this pile of shit, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them just trash the whole thing. Now, here's where I have to still be doom and gloom. It's become pretty common for channels like mine, though far more successful, to start talking about this stuff as if we're winning or the tide has turned. I mean, I wish that was true, but it's clearly not. I mean, seeing them at least acknowledge they can see it failing is nice and all, but the machine that Disney has become only produces one thing now. It would take a complete overhaul from top to bottom, fire hosing every company they own to rid themselves of the activists they've hired, and an abject apology and acknowledgement that they plan on only focusing on making great entertainment for there to be any real hope of change. It's why the Variety article is nice and funny and all, but they also missed the why of what's happened here. Disney, like most major corporations, are entirely captured by investment banks that demand they adhere to ESG and DEI mandates, not to mention CEI scores from the others. I link this page every time I talk about Disney, and I do it for a reason. If you've never read this, you really have no idea what Disney is doing and why no amount of lost revenue is going to make them suddenly do an about-face. Disney is far more about social change than they are about entertainment in 2023. If you don't understand that, you're missing the plot. And while it's true that Disney may not be entirely to blame for this on their own, this was a choice by Disney. At this point, Disney owns virtually everything we all love from our childhoods. They could be minting money if that was the only goal. It's not hard to give people what they want, especially when you bought the franchises they love because they have a built-in audience. Various legacy and access media types have largely blamed toxic fans for all this, but that's a 180-degree miss. Fans want to love things, and it's that love that made the properties valuable. It's why Disney spent so much on all of them. When you disrespect the fans, change everything they loved about the franchise you bought, and then have the fucking audacity to blame fans when they tell you they don't like what you've done, at first, fans complain, hoping to get you to see the error of your ways. And if you keep it up, they eventually just walk away. This is where Disney now finds itself. Apathy. They ran off the very fans they counted on when they dropped billions on these studios, and they did it with their eyes open. Fuck around and find out, as the saying goes. They have no one to blame but themselves. Oh, and one last thing. Stop chalking up the Marvel decline to superhero fatigue. That is bullshit, and it lets Disney off the hook. Disney could have continued making superhero movies for decades with little blip. Comics not only had a built-in audience, but had decades worth of stories they could have adapted, all of which were already storyboarded for them. All Disney and Marvel would have had to do is cast appropriately to the source materials, produce stories fans actually wanted to see, keep them at a high level, and just don't oversaturate the market expecting people to watch every goddamn movie and TV show in order to be able to keep up. It's like they're allergic to money. It reminds me of the scene in Glengarry Glen Ross.
A guy don't walk on the lot lest he wants to buy. They're sitting out there waiting to give you their money. Are you gonna take it? Are you man enough to take it?
All Disney had to do was make content that would make people happy, that they expected to see. From their classic catalog to Pixar to Marvel to Star Wars to Indiana Jones, all they needed to do was treat their fans with respect, and they could have continued emptying our pockets forever. But they just couldn't resist taking us for granted and assuming we'd always be there because we'd never walk away from these things we loved.
Fuck all that.
But like Gina said, the jig may be up. Oh, it doesn't mean Disney's gonna stop, but maybe, just maybe, fans will finally walk away for good. Until next time, thanks for watching.